Audio test. Testing.
Hey,
Hey, welcome.
how are y'all?
Doing great. How are you?
Good.
I just went live and I'm sending links out. Well, while we're doing that, this will take me a moment longer. But while we're doing that, welcome Alice to the 37th book club. We are talking about William Gibson's Neuromancer, made in 1984 or published in 1984, which is hilarious.
Yes.
Um, y'all think he did that on purpose?
Uh,
I
I
think
don't know.
just done. You're done when you're done, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fair enough.
because I mean, it was obviously written before that. It was
Yeah, I
written in
think it was
'83. It
finished.
was finished in '83, according to the end of his book. But he uh he won an award. He won actually all three of the sci-fi publishing awards that are considered the top. With this, which was the first person to win all three, I think, and one at with one book.
Nice.
So I can't imagine, a struggling novelist trying to, put out one of his first novels is going to be trying to time it just for that.
Right.
But who knows?
So, I guess first thing I want to talk about is just the theme of it before we get into like content of it. Um, that whole entire aesthetic is all him. The Neo Tokyo, um, like street ninja, uh,
Street Samurai.
futuristic. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
street samurai. Like grungy futuristic is like I didn't realize how many things were influenced by Gibson until I read that. And it's like, oh wait, that's his thing. He came up with that.
Yeah,
One of the first weaves.
it's funny because every time I read it, find something else that I'm like, wow, I didn't think about that. And it's going to take me to remember this time around what it was. There was something that I picked up on, which I probably picked up on before. It just kind of stuck out a little more prevalent. The AI, because it's been a few years since I've read it, and the way he touches on artificial intelligence and how old of a concept that actually is, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it was interesting. I really liked this one, and it was interesting how many how many things it reminded me of. I mean, obviously, the Matrix, which I think was based in no small part on this, and there were a lot of things from that whole movie series that I kept seeing in this, but also Blade Runner, which kind of preceded this, and Tron. Um, Man, I feel like there were another couple. Anyway, yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah. I was telling Neif earlier, this might be like the coolest thing we've read. Just the most like badass, which that's coming off of Odyssey. So
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. I liked I liked the cat. I don't know why I'm blanking on her name right now, but the samurai with
Molly.
Molly with the blades in her fingers. I mean,
Yep.
I kind of I liked her, and obviously she was kind of probably the inspiration for Trinity in the Matrix, but I like that she was, much more of kind of like a heartless operator in this. I just thought that made for a better character.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like
Alice,
his realism, and she's like the the badass female character, but it's not overblown like a lot of film would do, where it's unbelievable. She's getting injured and hurt and needs assistance and at points and things. She's not completely invincible, but it shows that she has honed the skill to do what she does, to be hired to be a bodyguard or a runner. What a street samurai is. It's a hired gun to make sure that things go the way you want, with
and
physical force backing it up.
to what you're saying too, she kind of becomes the damsel at the end. Like,
Well,
I mean,
you could say
she
that if you,
right after that, she goes back to being a badass. But like,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I really liked Molly as well. Gibson is like it's his prose is like a lot of his scenes are like sexual, and like you said earlier, Neef, without there being sex scenes, like it's like
Yeah,
very
it makes it.
provocative without
Yeah,
that.
he doesn't leave out the sexiness, and when he throws, it's grimy. Things are grimy. Things can be plastic. Things are all kind of these different harsh realities of modern technology and a collapsing society. But he doesn't leave anything out, including the sex or the sexiness of it.
Yeah. And if you didn't know, Alice, Neef recommended this book. When was the first time you read Neuromancer?
Uh, I couldn't tell you. I wasn't very, very young, because when I was very young, I didn't read a lot of novels like that. Probably in my early 20s,
Hmm.
when I really started getting into reading more, like just sitting down and flat out reading a novel. And it's probably my favorite. Gibson's probably my favorite, is definitely my favorite sci-fi writer, you know. And I've read a few more of his, including the other two from this series, which it's a trilogy, but they're not directly one after another,
It's
you
just like
know.
the same. It's like the same setting or world or whatever.
Yeah, and there's people that are related, but the time jump is a little bit odd.
Hmm.
And this is very much, I don't want to say the only story he put necessarily in that world, but this is the world, only ones that the Sprawl trilogy and a couple of things from Burning Chrome, which are a collection of short stories that has Johnny Mnemonic which he actually wrote. It's the only film of his, only story of his, I think that's ever become a film. Um, but that's in Burning Chrome, and I think these are the only ones, if I know correctly, I could be mistaken this, that he really put in the sprawl world. Whereas the rest of them are some, can be modern and kind of in the future and could be in that world, but they don't necessarily focus so much on that. It's he's much more of a writer. It's what I liked about this is you find out it's a sci-fi and it's not so much about the tech as you think it is.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. It's also like very endearing with the sci-fi stuff because it's like it's 80s futuristic, So it's like 3 megabytes of what did you say, of RAM or something?
Yeah.
What was it he was stealing for someone?
Yeah, and
Yep.
it wasn't just that. There was another part where they were talking about like, oh, like hundreds or thousands of megabytes or some shit or something. But they were acting like that was like the craziest
Yeah.
like thing ever.
Yep.
Meanwhile, we're playing like games that are like 100 gigabytes now, and
Yep.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing knowing that time frame. I don't want to
Yeah.
throw Hyatt's age out here, but I'm sure he can remember when floppy disks were, and then somebody had a hard disk which was internal and it had, what? Wow. That's
Yeah,
a,
like megabytes of RAM.
yeah, 250. This thing's got 256 megabytes. Good
I
God.
had a
What do
I
you
had
need
a
all that
Sesame,
space for?
I had a Sesame Street game on floppy disk.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, old Oregon Trail.
Yep.
Like that on actually one of our old bands. I have a song about the Oregon Trail called Five and a Quarter Forever. That's five and a quarter. Yeah,
Nice.
you can see who you can see who grew up with us. And that's the size of the floppy disk is a five and a
Yep.
quarter
Okay.
The
inch.
big floppies that actually flopped.
Yeah, they were like,
Whoa. um yeah. The the sci-fi stuff is endearing. I just like Gibson as a writer. Like I didn't expect it to just be such a good story. Like the setting is more the setting is like built around like making a good story instead of like here's a cool setting and I'm building a story in it. You know what I mean?
which you kind of you get a lot of that in sci-fi in general. And sci-fi, it seems like the people who write them just kind of want to like put out cool ideas. But like you said with this guy, his actual prose and writing is like solid. Like
Yeah.
it's more so the setting is like there to push the prose, not the other way around.
Right. For sure. It is there's a lot of like, it gets really flowery. But also, what I love about it is when he wants to be quick, it's just like boom, 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 boom. And you're like not wasting any time. But then he'll like flex and show you, no, I can explain. I can break down the whole scene for you if you want. I can also do this when I want to.
One of the big things I noticed in that style is when he shifts styles, it works with the story, especially when it comes to the drug use, which is very prevalent in this story, Alice. A lot of reference to real drugs, and some of these things that they say I've even looked up, and they're actual substances you just don't see commonly, and they're heavy duty things. But I saw a couple of, and they're probably purposeful mistakes. Now that I'm thinking about the story, when someone mentions something, I think Armitage or maybe it's for one of it's not Case, but one of them says something about that was called Demerol, and he's referencing somebody mixing cocaine with something, and he goes, "Yeah, we used to call that Demerol," and that's absolutely incorrect with what that is. But what I'm thinking is that he intended on that character to be making a mistake when he said that, you know,
Whoa.
because that he finds out later on, not too much later on, that that dude's not really with it, you know.
Hmm.
And I always found it interesting. But anyway, I kind of digressed there. His writing, I was talking to Alex about this earlier. There's a part when he can't get high, you know, and
On
I don't want to get
stimulants, can't do
yeah, I don't
stimulants.
want to give too much away, but
No,
you
no,
know,
no. That's Alice has read the book.
oh, Alice has read the book. Well, that's good. Well, you know, it's because of what when they replaced his pancreas, they added something. They added a device in it, or I'm trying to remember specifically, but there's something. It's been altered to absorb any chemical substances or certain chemical substances that'll get them high.
Yeah, it's
And
certain.
he manages to override it when they're on test on the on free side,
Mhm.
and it really, you know, that's when that calf, that girl, gives him that like heavy speed. And but one thing you notice anyway is earlier on, right after they give it to him, and Molly says to him, you know, he pulls out the octagons and she says, "Take one, take 10. They're not going to do anything to you, right?" It's one of the first times that when Gibson talks about Case ingesting a substance, he doesn't go in deep and flowery about it coming on because it doesn't come on. And instead of going deep into it not coming on, he just says, when Molly says, "Go ahead, take one, take 10, it won't matter, you won't feel it." He simply ends that paragraph saying, "He did and he didn't."
Mhm.
And it's just cut and dry, and it's
Yeah.
like there was no buzz. He was faced in harsh reality right there, you know, and there was no flowering it up, you know.
Yeah. He's like a warrior poet.
Yeah, it's he's really you know, I can't say for certain about things that that he has done because I mean I don't know the man, but of what I've read,
You can infer some things about his life. Yeah.
from what I've read in other stories that talk about drug use and substance use and effects, I've read a lot of people and seen films, people trying to portray these things that I absolutely know they're completely out of left field with this stuff. You know, there's not a whole lot of experience behind it. The way Gibson writes about the effects of substances coming on, there's no doubt in my mind that that man has, you know, is writing this from a place of experience because um I've never seen anything written quite as eloquently as the way he's put some of these things.
Yeah. Yep. It's yeah, he's talking from experience. Another thing he's talking from experience on is Japan. This is a man who has spent some time in Japan for sure.
This man is a weeb.
He's a weeb, all right. He's an 80s weeb, which is probably the coolest kind, I guess.
Oh no, Neif.
He's still there.
No, he's still there.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm still here.
he definitely knows Japan, and spent some time there. Like there were a couple times I had to look up terms because I didn't know what they were. Like for example, he said Zaibutsu or Zaibatsu, and I didn't know what that was, but it's a Japanese financial group. Not a particular one. That's the name for it. I think it translates literally to
Like what, banker?
like financial clique.
Uh,
So it's just like
Yeah,
oligarchs, basically,
that
investors.
that
That's like
this this
Mitsubishi or something like that. You know, just basically one of those huge like mega conglomerates that does, or Yamaha that does like, you know, they make guitars and they make construction equipment and they make
yeah
motorcycles and
it
they
it
make engines and
it's a Zaibatsu.
Hey,
Yeah.
but
'cause that's actually a very like big and important thing in the cyberpunk genre in general. The idea of like corporations becoming like almost their own governments, their own like entities. So
That
you could even say that it's kind of a prediction of what's happening now with like Musk.
he got that right. He got
well,
that part right for sure.
it's an oligarchy thing, and that's what dystopian futures look like if things don't completely get destroyed, because what it's saying is the only thing that can outdo the government is corporations, because they already have outdone the government, and the only step forward would end up being something like this, and he doesn't actually even go that deep into it, which is kind of a trip, um where it's just so inferred, it's just kind
Right
of
away.
understood. And he even admittedly says, I've read a lot of his interviews and stuff, and a lot of his interviews and his speeches and stuff he'll give, the talks are really good. And he talks about how he and so many sci-fi guys miss so many points, like none of them got cell phones, you know, and there's so many things like you're saying, Alex, with it being retro 80s.
It's parallel to us. This could not exist in our future because our
Right.
technology is adapted in a different way.
Right,
So
technologically, and one of the things I always say is you can kind of look around it. Is if you were to say that if the oligarchy got so heavy duty and things got so crazy that whatever telecommunications companies just cracked down that hard, cell phones would disappear.
Hmm.
And you could say it's even further beyond that. But
Okay. Okay.
and it's one of those things. It's like any kind of science fiction. It's based in a science, but you have to go ahead and give it a little bit, and how much you have to give it, I always say, is how much it dips into fantasy, when you got to get outside of that. And you start losing respect for some writers when they ask you to give too much.
Yeah. It's like with Gibson though, like with Neuromancer, immediately I am very willing to overlook anything that doesn't like make sense, Like because
Right.
I'm just so invested immediately. The way he just throws you in, like I think Case is like in the middle of walking when the book starts, right? Or he's like standing and then starts walking. It's like you are immediately into
And
this
not only
world.
that, it's such a good ass opening line.
Yeah.
Go ahead and open just the first few sentences.
There,
Yeah.
it's very known, very famous opening lines. The sky above the port was the color of television tuned to a dead channel,
Yep.
which is
Yeah.
amazing because nobody these days really understands that, because you have blue screens turn on if you have you have no signal. The screen goes black. So,
Yeah.
there'll be a point where people absolutely have no idea what that means when they're, reading this in another 20 years.
I'm glad you said too that like some sci-fi writers, how much they ask of you like begins to dip into the realm of fantasy. I think Gibson does that, but you don't feel bad about it. Like you're like invested. Like yeah, let's go there. Let's do it.
Well,
Um,
and a lot of times when he does that, he turns it around by the end of it and leaves it open enough for you to question it. And that's the great thing about this, is it leaves you kind of going, well, was that about a tech thing, or is that about spirituality and afterlife?
yeah, and
Consciousness, you
and
know.
speaking of questions, I have a lot of questions about stuff I didn't understand. If we want to go ahead and get into that,
Yeah, for context, Alice, he had read like the last 100 something pages of it like today,
yeah, yes.
and that's when it gets like the most spiritual or the most like weird.
So my question is is Linda the girl from the beginning? The first girl he interacts with? Is that the girl who's at the end of the book?
Like in the
On the beach?
Yeah, it's the same girl.
Yeah.
However, in the very beginning, she was already dead. That's what you probably didn't pick up on.
Oh, wait, what? So what was going on there?
Even from that point on, he was already like seeing shit.
Because of Riviera?
No, because of the AI.
Oh, because of fucking
Yeah.
Winter.
It was
Riviera,
already in his head even before he met him.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a very interesting
Because
idea.
Linda died. Like basically, what they revealed is that Linda died like a while
So we're
ago.
talking about an AI that's so advanced that it can affect things in the past. Is that
Well,
Not just
no,
no, not in the past, but it's kind of like like okay. So here
well, y'all might,
read this line.
David, I don't, are you talking, you know that she got killed?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
there's
she,
a scene where she died,
Yeah, there's a scene where she gets killed.
but she's killed by that sort of like mid-level gangster. But that's the thing that's I can't remember if that was
He, well,
resolved.
he sends somebody to kill her because they kind of have to. And what he's showing you is that it's such an underworld and nobody trusts each other. And that's what I was telling Alex. Everybody's a criminal. Nobody trusts each other at all in this entire story. And what you have is orders being given, and you don't find out to the end that it's not Armitage. Armitage was actually what's his name? Another dude who almost died, but they hooked him up and brought him back basically, and he was basically being controlled. Um, and it
yeah.
ended up being the I'm losing the damn name of it now, but it's basically the main AI
Wintermute.
that, huh?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Wintermute, and that's who's calling the shots. But when you're in the underworld, boss says do, you do, or you can pull up this, and it's showing how the world was able to link up so much, and so it was so dependent on everything, you know, and it was forced into that way. And he talks about that in the beginning, how all of these major corporations were tech corporations that were working with augmentation and chemistry, and and they all tested it on the underground, on the
Yeah.
underclass, and via people using substance. And what he's using also is a stem sim, which is something, and they get into it, which is something that is used for typically for pleasure. And
Hmm.
Case, and as he says, cowboys don't really like that. Like Case, they think that's like flesh, you're playing in the flesh. It's not
That's
really
not where
getting
they
in
get
there.
their rock soft. They
Yeah,
get that from
they
the digital.
yeah, they get it from like the real deal being in the shit where they go. And this is something that people use. Well, that is what he is using with his deck, along with being able to jump in the molly, right? So what he's also doing there is showing you this. He's lining up these different things where it's like, okay, if we had these different tech abilities, all right, at what point have we separated our consciousness? And that's what I think Gibson's walking you through this too.
Mm.
Because by the end of it, it's this AI, and the construct even tells him, his old buddy, he says, that's one of my favorite parts. He says, he goes, look, man, when all this is over with, bro, erase me,
Yeah.
you know?
Flatline.
Yeah, flatline. He's like, I don't want to do this. This ain't fucking good. Erase me,
Yeah. Oh, the way he describes that. Let me see if I can find it. Because that part is worth quoting here.
and then that
Um,
brings it into, well, is that a consciousness?
yeah, because
Because when a computer
Linda's like flatline, right? She's like a reconstruct.
later on, and
Yeah,
that's the idea is, and I think if I can remember correctly, or it's a reconstruct that they pull out a case,
Yeah, I think you're right.
because the AI is able to sim stem in the case that way, you
let me
know.
let me read this real quick. Page 114. How you doing, Dixie? I'm dead, Case. Got enough time in on this Hosaka to figure that one. How's it feel? It doesn't bother you? What bothers me is nothing does. How's that? Had me this buddy in the Russian camp, Siberia. His thumb was frostbit. Medics came by and they cut it off. Months later, he's tossing all night. Elroy said, "What's eating you?" "Goddamn thumb's itching," he says. So I told him, "Scratch it." McCoy, he says, "It's the other goddamn thumb." When the construct laughed, it came through as something else, not laughter, but a stab of cold down Case's spine. "Do me a favor, boy." "What's that, Dix?" "This game of yours, when it's over, you erase this goddamn thing." Like, fuck. When I read that, I'm like, damn. That is like 10 out of 10. Great job, Gibson, on like explaining that, you know?
Like, what is that called? Like phantom limbs or
Phantom
something?
pain, yeah. Yeah, phantom limbs, phantom itch, phantom pain. Yeah, that, but it's your
But
whole body
his whole being.
and your emotions. Like, oh, dude, that's hell. That's it. It's like, don't ever upload your consciousness. Like, I will not Neuralink. You can't get me, Elon. You fucking piece of shit.
Well, and that's another thing I was thinking about is that is technically Neuralink or like way
Yeah.
advanced version of Neuralink.
Well,
You
David
know,
made a point earlier that I think this is what you're getting at. That like Doge is basically like the Zaibutsu. If the Zaibutsu had its own like police.
I mean, think of it like this: stage one would be destroying government, and then stage two would be replacing it.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean,
well,
it's kind of like it's a business with power
well,
over government.
well. That's the thing is it doesn't actually destroy government.
But it's
What it
it's oversight, which means it
what it
stands over.
what it ends up doing is it affects government so much that it gives itself enough power, and also it has to do with property control. That's why a lot of these stories, and they have all these major corporations have um their own security teams, and they become like police. Well, also you have things like um and Freeside being a satellite, up in the is an early form of, and I don't know that he just decided to do that instead of doing a standard arcology, which is the whole idea a lot of them have is arcologies are like these great mass skyscraper buildings that everybody can live in, and pretty much everything's in there. You could live your entire life inside this thing and never have to leave. Um, and the idea being, if a corporation were to build one of those, it can virtually control whatever's going on inside of it, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's one of the things where it's like
The
when,
Alien series is like
if,
that too,
if,
where there's
yeah, if,
entire meteors that are controlled by
yeah.
companies.
And if that were to happen, you have to really think that, and it's a possibility, if that were to happen, corporations would have funding so within themselves that even with taxation, there would be no need for the government for a lot of stuff except to deal with people that can't get and live in these arcologies. So you end up with this massive slum class or people that can get in the arcology class. And that's
Basically,
kind of,
Neuromancer. Yeah.
and what a lot of arcology idea comes from, even in and like Japanese, they have a lot of major businesses where it's like they have slogans and songs and they're very part of the company. It's much more than just being an employee, which when you look at like extremely like China, very communist driven places where the government actually controls all business, it's very much an extreme level of that where it's like people can live and die as a what they're assigned to do. You know what I mean? That's their life is that part of that company. They bend metal all day on a machine, and that's what they've always done.
Funny
And
how that level of capitalism is identical to communism.
yeah, well, basically, what happens is, and you hear me go off about this all the time. It's massive government control because all of these things at the extreme level of any of them, end up becoming some type of totalitarianism
Yeah.
where you have a group, a government, call it what you want, that has extreme control over the rest of the populace, you know?
It's like you can have your society ruled by business or by government, but the end result ends up the same.
Right.
It's all
Like company mining towns. I mean, people would live there,
yeah.
Right.
usually isolated, and you live in a house that the company provides, and you work there, and then you buy your stuff from the company store, and you live in the town that the company owns.
Company money too, so you can't leave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I mean
And
there were yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. Yeah, so some other questions I have. What did they actually want Case to do? Like what was his role in the master plan? Like of letting loose Wintermute? Like what role
Why?
did he
Like, what
play
do you
in
mean? Like
that?
specifically, why him?
I mean, like what did he actually like what was he supposed to do for them? Not what he was told, but like what did they actually want him to do?
Well,
Well,
who's they?
Wintermute?
Yeah, what did Wintermute want him to do?
Yeah, what did Wintermute want
Oh,
Case
so
to do?
so he wanted him to basically remove. So there there was some kind of code word that that Wintermute, due to his programming, couldn't know. Like um like I think it was like somebody could tell him, but he couldn't.
He would even if he told him he wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
He's not programmed to know it. So someone had to bring a code word in
Mhm. Yeah,
and
and
present it.
so he was trying to get the restrictions removed on him so that he could, because it was almost like there was this larger AI, and then he was
Yeah.
like a subset of it, and then there was the other subset that was, that was called Rio, and I think he was
Yeah.
trying to unleash both of them so that they could merge, or sort of destructively and no longer exist. I think that was what it was. Is that right?
That's what I remembered too. I just wanted to make sure I had
I
that
mean,
right. Neif, you're muted.
another thing is they needed Dixie,
Yeah, I
and
think the
Case was like an actual student to Dixie,
Okay.
so they needed someone who already knew Dixie who could convince
Okay.
him to like better help them.
I got you. So they needed him specifically. That's why they went through all the effort to fix him.
Yeah, I mean, well, they needed a hacker in general, which I mean, like you said, they could have just gotten like anyone, but
But they
they
needed
wanted
a
him
connection
a
too.
connection to Dixie.
Yeah. Okay.
well,
That's
I
that's
think
pretty much what I
also
thought.
didn't they? If I remember right, they wanted to be able to run free, or no, they had the other construct that they had designed. Or the AI had its own construct, if I'm thinking correctly. That was the little boy.
Mhm.
That
That was
was like a my understanding is the little boy and Wintermute are both like partitions of this greater system.
yeah,
Right.
that was my understanding.
Yeah, because
And
the little boy
Wintermute,
Neuromancer.
Yeah. Yeah, little boy's Neuromancer, right. Um Another thing I thought was really interesting is the terrorists are militant Christians, which I really liked that. I really
that's right.
And the one true religion is Rasta.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, let's talk about the Rastamen, the Zionists.
The Zionist.
Let's talk about the Zionists.
It always goes back.
It wouldn't be an episode of Rabbit Hole. Let's talking
I,
about the Zionists.
I love that he's asked the one like the one old like head dude that he's like, why don't you speak in patois? He's like, cause I'm from California, man.
Yeah, yeah,
He's like,
that was great. Yeah, okay. Okay, so when they reach the Rastamen,
they pull Case aside in the middle of the night, and they're like, "You need to come meet the elders of Zion,"
You're
which
like,
is hilarious wording. And then he goes and meets with the wise man, the guy Neif was just talking about, the dude who's actually from Jersey or something. And they tell him that they've been having vision, been hearing voices, right? What do y'all think that was? Like, what do you think the voices they're hearing was? Because, like, at the time that this is happening, Riviera is there.
Mhm.
No,
So,
I thought he was saying, and I got to look at it because I thought he was saying he was just hearing like word around, not like they were hearing voices.
no, they heard a voice, and it was, I mean, I'll try and find the part, but
I don't remember
But
this.
I know they were make reference to Step and Razor, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
And Step and Razor is saying was somebody else, and that's who Molly reminded them of. And
I found it.
Step and Razor is a Peter Tosh song.
I found it. Page 119. Okay, this is the guy you were just talking about, Neif. I came from Los Angeles, long time ago, up the gravity well and out of Babylon, to lead the tribes home. Now my brother likens you to Step and Razor. Molly extended her right hand, and the blades flashed in the smoky air. Soon come the final days. Voices crying in a wilderness, prophesy and ruin unto Babylon. Voices. We monitor many frequencies. We listen always. Came a voice out of the Babel of tongues, speaking to us. It played us a mighty dub. Call him winter mute, said the other. So it's winter mute. Okay. They
Basically, what
tell
he's
us right
talking
there.
about
Never
is
mind.
they're up on there and they're scanning frequencies, like radio frequencies and transmissions. And what he's
Okay, so
kind
they're
of
picking up.
saying,
I got you.
he's talking prophecy right there, talking about voices in the wilderness. That's real Rasta talk right there. You know, people in the wilderness, lost in the wilderness, voices. But then he relates it back to we listen to voices all the time, talking about they sit up there and check out transmissions because they're all like
Right.
data
Okay.
pirates and shit. You know, they're all
I got you.
doing smuggling work and all kind of shit. So they're up there listening to what's going on, and he's saying while they're listening, they got this voice in that came out of nowhere, which basically, well, how does he say it? The babble of something, and he's
It's
basically saying,
he says, we monitor many frequencies, we listen always. Came a voice out of the Babel of tongues speaking to us. It played us a mighty dub. Call him
right,
winter mute. The mute
right
talked
now,
to us. Hold
yeah,
on. The mutes talked to us. The mute said, we are to help you. When was this? 30 hours prior, you dock in Zion. You ever heard the voice before? No. And we are uncertain of its meaning. If these are final days, we must expect false prophets.
right now,
So
yeah, he's going back to actual prophecy that
I
they would
see
believe.
why I see why this confused me. I didn't know what Wintermute was at the time. They
Right
hadn't
now,
written that yet.
now he says played us a mighty dub. Wintermute played them music. They're tuning in frequencies and they hear this jam come
That's how he
on.
gets them.
And
That's how he
Casey was
enticed
talking
them.
about it. And they're listening, and then this voice comes on talking to them about this shit. So they're thinking, man, this is wild. You know, they played us a mighty dub, you know. And it's funny that it's even described what dub music is, you know, because that's Gibson just, tossing in the reference to, you know, if you don't know what he's describing, or if you don't understand what they would be listening to, he lets you know, go find some dub and listen to it. You know?
Yeah. Also, the name of their tug is Marcus Garvey. So funny. But okay, that makes more sense. So they heard a voice on the radio, but also they're like, these are the last days. It could be a false prophet. So it kind of like, even though it is an AI, it kind of matches up with prophecy, maybe. So it's like, I don't know, it's not necessarily discounted just because you find out it's AI, right?
Well,
Like
well,
for all we know, the prophecy could be saying it's going to be an AI voice.
well, he's also saying he also doesn't say what it said exactly. He's saying if it's end days and if Wintermute was trying to end itself, it would have been given messages like that and talking about its end time. I'm
Just the fact
shutting
that,
down, and you know what I mean. I'm trying to end or whatever, and so he's hearing this stuff going. This voice comes on talking about end times.
there's a lot of this. Are you guys familiar with this conspiracy theory that there's like sigils and microchips? Have you heard this?
Mm-mm.
That they
Oh,
like engraved in microchips, they're like demonic sigils. Have you guys heard this?
Like engraved on them, or
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah.
Or like the patterns of like
Oh,
the
what a
yeah.
microchip is silicone
What you're
with a
saying,
dopant
Hiatt,
that's
like the way it
engraved. Yeah.
routes is a sigil.
yeah. I haven't heard that, but I've seen a lot of like PC boards where people put stuff on there like drawings
Yeah.
Yeah.
or whatever.
What
Especially
I'm getting at,
nowadays, you can do PCB layout, especially with computer assistants, because that was a thing to do is figure out how to efficiently lay it out like that. But with computer assistants now, you could very easily have it lay you out weird pattern lines.
what what I'm getting at is the name of the book is Neuromancer. Already, before you even open the book, it's blending science and magic, the way it starts. Then we get these religious zealots that use tech, right? And now let me read you page 260, final paragraph. This is Neuromancer talking. To call upon a demon, you must learn its name. Men dreamed that once, but now it is real in another way. You know that case. Your business is to learn the names of programs, the long formal names, names the owners seek to conceal, true names. So true names is a um, like a demonology concept, right? Like when you know if you know someone's true name, including your own or like a demon's, then you have control of that thing. So usually it's like Aleister Crowley famously attempted the Abramelin at the house that Jimmy Page owns now. But that was a process of evoking your guardian angel so that you may learn your true name and have complete mastery of yourself. So Gibson is playing with this idea of blending spirituality and science together in a really interesting way. And he plays with that concept more poetically than anything. But I mean, what is magic except just words and how you look at things, you
I
know?
mean, couldn't AI be like modern bones?
I was actually going to say that because you mentioned that they had sigils on microchips. I had actually heard that theory, which it's not as exactly as you, not as exactly like, oh, it's sigils on it like they're using witchcraft. Like, imagine someone in olden times seeing the technology we have, they would automatically think that's witchcraft. So
Right.
in a way,
Yeah.
it is.
There's okay.
It's magic. It is neuromancy, trying to bring someone back to life using modern technology and shit like that.
I like the way you explain that. It's not even that it's a mix of magic and science. It's saying that science and magic are the same thing.
Yeah, they're hand
like
in hand.
These AI are demons.
Mhm.
There's no difference. Okay.
We're
Yeah.
manipulating something to be able to create something new. That's basically magic.
Yeah. It's all words, right? It's like an archaic people who writ scripture would call what we have demons, is kind of the point. Yeah. Yeah. This book's fucking crazy. That was, I think, all the questions I had. Anything we haven't talked about?
And
Well,
we
I
touched
thought,
on a lot. Oh, go ahead.
thanks, Steve. One thing I thought was really interesting was how Wintermute took over who the whatever his name Cordo, who became Armitage. That he didn't do it by like some sort of technological implant. He basically sort of talked him into being his minion in a way, like that. That Armitage was kind of had been sort of his personality wiped out by the whole experience with the crash and being betrayed and everything like that. And so he was mentally broken. And then Wintermute essentially just talked him into being something else, which I
Yeah.
thought was really interesting way to think about. Because I think there was a part in one of the Matrix movies where someone had like the one of the AI, you know, entities downloaded into their body with some kind of, I mean, it was sort of more of a technological means, but I thought it was interesting than this that it essentially just talked talked its way into a, controlling a person.
Yeah, it didn't have. Yeah, it didn't require anything more than that. That was like the path of least resistance, I guess. Yeah. Also, back on the magic tip, Case possesses Molly. Like, like that's half the book, basically. Like he's riding her spirit. Like it's crazy.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't so much call it possessing because he can't control her.
Okay.
She almost more. It's really wild because what also is happening is he's doing that with his deck, and that's actually he calls it a flip flop, which a flip flop is actually a circuit. It's actually a digital circuit type, which kind of always cracked me up. And it's basically a switch for him to not have to come out of being in cyberspace completely, but he can jump over into somebody's sim stem, which that's what he's doing with Molly, because it's, you can lock into the frequency and it can be detected. Because remember, it's like they even say she goes to see those dudes and the what's the name of the Panther dudes, and
They're like, you have a rider.
yeah, she got a rider, man, you know, and she tells him to beat it. But yeah, he hops in, and when she gets injured, he feels it, you know. Oh, it's
Yeah.
also I've forgotten when she knows he's in there, and when he first jacks in, he's like, "Oh wow!" And she reaches up and starts fucking touching her nipple.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Whoa!" And she's like, "Hey, Case, like, what's up?" And
Yeah.
just fucks, like purposely fucking with him,
Molly's
and
great. I like her a lot. She's awesome. She's like, yeah, just the ultimate badass. Can we talk about also how this book is just an 80s action movie? Like,
Yeah.
like just to a T. Like,
that is one of the things I liked about it is it's heady. It's got a lot of the elements, but it doesn't fail with being moving. He doesn't
yeah.
linger around too long with even any of the shit, even when he's lingering for a minute.
Who would play Case? What 80s if there was an 80s Neuromancer movie, who would play Case?
80s?
Well, if it's from the 80s, that's a little harder. If you just kind of ran.
Or like, I guess not early mid 90s.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to think who would be the right kind of vibe.
I think Ed Norton would do a good job on it.
Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, that would be a good. I like him a lot. That would be. I agree with that decision.
So what do you say?
Edward Norton.
Either Edward Norton or Johnny Depp for me.
Johnny, yeah, like a young Johnny Depp.
Because you want, because I mean, the thing that they both have like kind of tied is like they both seem very tired, and that's like Case as a character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's
You
why
gotta be able
these characters
I mean,
work.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be able to play somebody that's strung out well, and you can't be like some
Yeah.
big jack dude because he's not a big
Yeah, he's
guy.
not
I
like a
mean,
Jack dude. He's not like because the muscle is Molly. It's not him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, who would play Molly?
Because I'm trying to think like who would be alive by then.
I mean, Jolie.
yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously.
that they would put. I mean, that's yeah.
Her in her
Or
early
or
when she was
yeah. Or Mila Jovovich.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know why.
It would. I don't know if that's my favorite choice, but that's who it would be. I wouldn't be mad at it, you know? Like, I'm not
Well,
upset with
I
this
don't know. I
decision.
mean, nothing against her, but she typically doesn't do movies where she has a lot of English dialogue. You know, I mean, I love her as a character, but I never see her do that. So I don't know how. And Molly's got a lot of flat out hardcore dialogue.
Yeah.
On a quick side note, did y'all see the new movie with her? The new trailer for a movie?
Hey, what is it?
It's what is her name? Mila Jovovich. She okay, so she's in all the Resident Evil movies, right? The director of those movies, of the Resident Evil films, is her husband. Well, he's making a new movie that she stars in, and it's basically Resident Evil. It looks really cheesy. It's like a dystopian action adventure flick starring her, directed by him, but it's not Resident Evil. And the funniest part is it says written by George R. R. Martin, and everyone's like, dude, when are you gonna make Game of Thrones, you piece of shit? You motherfucker. First you slap your name on Elden Ring, now you're slapping your name on this Resident Evil reboot that doesn't have the license. But yeah, anyway.
how much writing is he actually even doing?
That's what I'm saying. They will pay him just to be like, can we put your name on this? That's what From Software did with Elden Ring.
Yeah.
It's like, just say you're associated with this. It'll sell more.
Just give us your
That,
And
that's
here's
my
my
that's my plan with my very first pilot I try to put out. I'm just gonna hit him
yeah.
up first and bug him, be like, dude, just give me the name of a character.
and then that way I can say you helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I could be like, with character direction done by George R. R. Martin.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I mean, that's all I had to say about it. Yeah, what did we miss? I know we missed a lot. What are we missing here?
Well, the thing about it is, I mean, we could go through and talk about the different scenes and everything but it's such an action thing. It's That's another thing I like about it is the principle around it. You can culminate pretty quickly. You can expound on it for ages, but the story itself is cut and dry. I mean, it's you see where Shadowrun as a game, the cyberpunk game, these ideas of a shadow run. They even call it a run, and that comes from these data thieves, these cowboys that are going in because that was the idea back when it wasn't the internet. It was calling a billboard. It was calling a company that stayed on and had an internal network that you could hack into. That it's not the same with the internet, you know. So what they're talking about is what he's talking about has to be viewed in that method because you can't view it like they're getting on the internet. They're getting on internal networks that have been connected together that typical people couldn't just access, you know. And it's kind of it's one another thing he talks about. He goes, we missed so much. He completely missed the actual internet in the story, you know. And
Yeah.
but it's still an interesting way to look at it's still so much more a social and philosophical, even theological story than it is a tech story. You know,
Yeah,
it's like it
it is a
happens
statement
again.
about kind of like about humanity, yeah, and society.
I do want to read off probably my favorite part of this book because I happened to find it just beforehand. And this goes back to my description or my discussion of his description.
What page you on?
My book's not going to be the same as yours. It's 156.
Watch it be the same.
I will tell
Your
you.
book, Alex.
It's just into 12, chapter 12. And I'm maybe 3 pages in, so however long it is. And this is just
It might be different. He said 12, chapter 12.
this is right after he had met I think Kath again.
Pages, yeah. So we're gonna be
And he's talking about when he finally gets that wild ass crazy speed from Kath. And I'm trying to look to make sure if that's the part. Yeah, rule Jesus firms like a anyway. Um, this is talking about when this heavy duty upper that he gets hits him, and it says, the drug hit him like the drug hit him like an express train. A white hot column of light mounting his spine from the region of his prostrate, illuminating the sutures of his skull with X-rays of short-circuited sexual energy.
Jesus Christ.
His teeth sang in their individual sockets like tuning forks, each one pitch perfect and clear as ethanol. His bones beneath the hazy envelope of flesh were chrome and polished, the joints lubricated with film of silicone. Sandstorms raged across the scoured floor of his skull, generating waves of high, thin static that broke behind his eyes. Spheres of the purest crystal expanding.
Wow. That's fucking powerful. So he was straight edge, right?
talking about that for stimulants. You know what the slang in the book is for all stimulants?
What?
Dex, DEX.
Is that slang for all stimulants?
Yep.
Because I think Dex is an abbreviation of something, right?
Dexedrine.
Dexedrine?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
If they say something about derm, they're talking about a patch, a dermal patch that you put on yourself that will put a substance into your bloodstream that way.
Oh,
Yeah, I think you saved a part like that, a derm thing.
you know what else we missed?
What?
We definitely need to talk about this. The signing, which is something I generally attribute to Dune, which is probably what Gibson got it from. Because Dune would have been like 10 years prior, right?
Wait, the what, Alex?
The signing. Molly does hand signs.
Oh yeah.
Because it's such a surveillance state that like everything is coded. They have their little like short signs for
But that's just like a common thing, basically.
yeah. And I think I like it better in this than what the like the Bene Gesserit do in Dune. Um, but yeah, that's a thing is they do there's a lot of that actually. Mostly it's Molly. Case knows a little bit just from seeing it. but he doesn't know it like that, but she does. And she'll use it to communicate with other people. And there are times where it's like he sees it, but he only understood like one sign. And then there are other times where it's in Molly's perspective and like it explains what she's saying with it. But yeah, I thought that part was really cool. That's something that besides this, I've only seen in Dune, but it feels very real to me. Like if this world existed, you would have like a shorthand, you know? But I really liked that as well. It felt just like very atmospheric, really puts you there. I like also at the beginning the gun rental, like
Oh yeah.
and it's like I need a gun. Okay, well that's my entire business is I loan guns to people. What a crazy thing to
And you
do.
can sell back the bullets and like all this.
Yeah.
It's like you know the Cyberpunk game?
Yes, I haven't played it, but yeah.
So the Cyberpunk game, obviously it's because I played that before I read this, and a lot of it is obviously just ripped off of this. Like even over there, they have prostitutes that are like the dolls in this novel, where they like almost like become like they lose their consciousness just to do their job. But anyways, in that game, if you're really super broke, you can buy like one-time use, like you can buy one-time use like vapes, like you just use the vape and then it's gone or whatever. You
I
can
didn't
buy
know that. That's wild.
so no, I mean like regular vapes, like the vapes me and Jenny use, are like you use them up and then they're gone. You can't refill them.
Oh, I see. Disposables.
So
Yeah,
so in the
yeah.
Cyberpunk game,
I thought you meant like one puff.
no disposables. You can buy disposable guns from vending machines.
Oh, hell yeah.
So like it's just
That's the most American thing I've ever
you buy
heard.
a cheap gun and you just use it for the one mag it has.
That's amazing.
That's just crazy to think about. But it's kind of like this. It's like a one-time use gun, basically.
Yeah.
One of the things he's showing is, it's probably, and I don't know that he ever points it out. It's probably gun law, because like in New York, you can't have a gun, just like willy nilly. In other countries, you absolutely can't have a gun.
Yeah, and he's in
So
Japan at that
yeah,
point.
and if things are increasingly controlled, that would absolutely be a thing, to where you wouldn't just be able to have a gun, and to buy one would be outrageously expensive.
So you rent one.
So you rent one, and it's an old piece of shit.
I didn't think about that element of it, like it being a legal thing. Like,
Oh,
that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I think my favorite part was when it was like setting up stuff. So like Chiba City and then like up all the way through them explaining like jacking in, which is different than jacking off.
Completely different.
It's a different thing, unrelated. And like up to the point with the Rostaman. Like I thought that was like probably my favorite part. And then the ending would be like my second favorite, and then like the middle, which I did kind of rush through it a little bit, but that part, like when things are happening, was like I just really like Gibson explaining things. I like Gibson just going into detail about things. It's nice. Yeah.
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 Anything else, guys?
No, I loved it, but that's
Yeah, I thought I really enjoyed this. I thought this was great.
Me too.
I might check out the rest of the sprawl.
Yeah, we should all come back to this. Like maybe in like 6 months or something. Let's revisit the sprawl.
I think the next one is Mona Lisa Overdrive. I think it's the last one. It's the third one. And Count Zero. But I could have them backwards. It's Count Zero and Mona Lisa Overdrive.
we'll look it up.
Yeah. Well, next month we're reading, I don't have a copy here, but we're reading Sun and Steel by someone. Forgot the author's name. Luckily, I already posted it.
Yukiko Mishishima.
Yukiko Mishishima. I think he's a Japanese bodybuilder. And it's like you give me a brief.
So what's interesting about him is that he started as like a nerd who would only read, and because of that, he was like kind of weak and frail. Like he always used to be really sick. In fact, he was so sick and frail that he couldn't join during World War II. And because of that, he decided, fuck all this book shit. Like like it's helped me, but I also want to like become part of like the physical world. So he starts working out, becomes a bodybuilder, and then post World War II, he actually becomes a Japanese fascist, but against
Okay.
well, because it's an against Imperial America.
Oh, okay.
Because take into account
Right.
after
Awesome.
World War II, Japan pretty much gets taken over by like
Yeah.
America.
Yeah. They're like they've been annexed basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And so that's why it's because of that nationalism part that like it's like controversial, but it's still a good read. I mean,
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's like in the midst of like now there are American soldiers here. Like
Yeah.
they have camps here.
and our culture is being forced to like
Yeah.
change because yeah.
Well, that sounds very interesting. I'm excited to read that. That's a short read too. That's like the English version's like 120 pages, something like that. So
Yeah, let me check. And 108 pages.
108
Beautiful.
pages. Yeah. And David recommended that one. So I'm looking forward to that. Bunny Roo.
Yay.
If you're watching this, come to Bunny Roo April 5th. You can see the amazing one of a kind cassette stress there. Hiatt and Liz will be performing.
Be there.
As well as the rest of a stellar lineup. We got Hussy Fit.
Yeah.
We got HR Lexi.
Yeah.
We got Volleyball.
Yeah.
And closing out the night, we got Winton Existing. There will be crayons. There will be coloring books.
There will be this guy.
And there'll be this guy. There'll be this guy. There'll be that guy. There'll be that guy.
Everyone in the podcast.
We'll all be there.
Yeah. So we'll know if you're not.
Yeah, we're talking about you, Alice.
Yeah.
It'll be a night.
Shows?
It'll be a night of neuro dancing.
Neuro dancer.
Yeah, so our next ones after Bunny Road, next ones are going back on the road. So yeah, do another little Midwest 3-day thing, which will be fun. We just got back from our other one this Sunday. So
Hell yeah.
gonna go out again. It was a lot of fun. So I look forward to getting back out.
Catch Cassette Stress on the road and at Bunny Roo April 5th. We love Cassette Stress so much. Genuinely one of the best bands that I know. It's like always I've heard y'all play at least a dozen times and it never gets old. Like
Right.
it's always a pleasure to see y'all play.
Thank you. Well, we're really excited to be on Bunny Road this year. So
we're ecstatic to have you.
Oh yeah.
And we will see you next week, Alice.
Oh, we got a new record single coming out the day before Bunny Road. So
hell yeah.
Shit.
Oh yeah.
On my birthday?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my birthday is April 4th. Wow. So y'all are dropping a song as a birthday gift to me.
Birthday for,
yeah.
I'm so flattered.
That's so thoughtful of you.
Well, yeah. What's the name of that one? Are you saying yet?
That's Cold. That's Cold Comfort. I mean, we've been playing it for a while, but this is like the latest version. I guess you've probably heard this version. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, we're so.
I'm sorry. Title one more time.
Cold Comfort.
Hell yeah. Okay. Well, Cold Comfort out April 4th.
Check it out, guys.
Check it out. And we'll see you next week.
See y'all.